What's up, you guys? It's Graham here. So I just wanted to share my story and my background about how I became a millionaire by the age of 26. Now, just as a quick background here, I started selling real estate as a real estate agent shortly after I turned 18 years old. So I'm 27 years old now, and in that time frame, I've sold a little bit over $120 million worth of residential real estate here in Los Angeles. Now, that has given me a little bit over $2.5 million worth of commission during that time. But there's a lot more that goes into that than just, X amount of commissions, because after taxes and expenses and everything after that, it actually takes quite a lot more than just making, X amount of money to actually be worth over $1 million, especially by the age of 26. So I'll break it down. I'll share with you guys exactly step by step what I did, because I've seen a lot of these videos about like how I became a millionaire and this and that, and they're all really vague. And they never actually give any like real info here in Los Angeles of, nothing of just like craziness or anything like that. So I don't want you to get the impression that I came from like well-off parents that were like spoon-feeding me deals, and it's like, oh, no wonder he did, $120 million worth of sales, because his parents were both in real estate and they, gave him all of these deals and these clients and all of this business. I started out with zero connections whatsoever. No one in my family was in real estate. My parents knew nobody that was buying and selling multi-million-dollar estates. Both my parents were renters. They had no money. They were super supportive parents, by the way, but it wasn't like they were there just like, making it rain for me and stuff like that. So I just want to get that out there. But a lot of this for me did start when I was like 13 or 14 years old. I was really into reef aquariums, and I ended up getting this job at this marine aquarium wholesaler that would import and export exotic fish and coral. And my job was to go and take pictures of the inventory that would come in. I would Photoshop it, and then I would help biking school, because I didn't see the point of that. I didn't see how learning science in like freshman year of high school was gonna help make me money. I didn't care about the cell's biology. I didn't care about learning algebra. I didn't care about learning history. I didn't care about learning Latin. All I cared about was just making $20 to $35 an hour, photographing fish and coral and photoshopping that and putting it on the website. And that was for me a bit of a downfall when it came to school, because that changed my mindset to like, all I want to do is work and do things to make money, and not so much just to waste time in school. Because of that, my grades started suffering dramatically. And I was never the student that was like getting in trouble and stuff like that, but I just did not care at all about homework. I hated it because I just didn't see the point. So as soon as I got my driver's license, that was the point where school just really just went downhill, because now I can ditch school. And I had when I was about 16 years old, shortly after that, the business was sold, they shut it down, and at that point I was thinking, like I'm still in high school, but I still don't care about school. And at that time I got into a band. And at that point I realized, like, what? I'm just gonna be a famous drummer. And that was my goal in high school. I wanted to be a famous musician, and I was a drummer in a band. And not to toot my own horn or anything, or not to sound like arrogant or anything, but like the band was pretty good, and we were touring like the Roxy, the Knitting Factory, we played the Viper Room. We played like a lot of these cool places on the Sunset Strip. We got our music actually played in a few TV shows and a few like indie movies and stuff like that. And I still actually get royalty checks to this day. They're not big. They might be like 5 or 10 cents. Like closer to my senior year of high school, I had this mini realization where there are amazing musicians out there. And I didn't want to be one of these dudes who's an amazing musician, but who's living out of his van in front of the Roxy Theater on Sunset, because it's so competitive as a musician. And I decided at that point that it was the toughest decision I think I've ever had to make, and maybe it's one of my few regrets here, but I decided not to pursue the band. And at that point, I'm realizing like, I don't really know what I want to do, but at the same time, I really loved investing, and I love money, and I love making money, so I thought, okay, investment banking. This is what I want to do. So my senior year of high school, I applied to one college, because I thought for some reason, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna get into Pepperdine. And it was the only school I applied to. Now, I loved Malibu, I loved the campus of Pepperdine, and I just applied to that one school. I had like C's and D's, and I really loved or do something because I'm not going to college now. And I did. I ended up getting a data entry job at this investment firm specializing in precious metals in Santa Monica. And that was this 9-to-5 job, this very corporate sort of structure. Hated it. Most depressing time of my life. And I realized, like, I gave up the band, which I loved at the time, for this piece of shit that I'm wasting my time at, that I thought this is the route I wanted to go. I thought I wanted to go into investment banking. I thought I wanted to do this corporate structure of business and investments. I thought I wanted that, and I didn't. There's this huge wake-up call to me that's like, I have no clue what I want to do, and I'm thinking, like, I screwed myself over in school. I didn't pay attention. I had really bad grades. I could still pursue music, but now I don't really have the band anymore. I really didn't have anything at the point. But I figured, you know what? I can at least get my real estate license for a year and then reapply to colleges. So as I'm getting discouraging, now keep in mind this is 2008, just as the real estate market was just about to peak and was just starting to go down. And almost every single agent I met with was telling me something like, now is not a good time to get into real estate. I have to pick up now another job. I'm not earning the money that I used to. You should get more life experience. You should go to college. You should come back when you're older. You should go, they weren't telling me to run around. Basically, everyone was telling me not to get into real estate. But sometimes I think too, the advantage of being young is that you have selective hearing. So basically they would tell me this sort of stuff. I wouldn't really listen to it. And I would just think like, oh, you know what? They're just bitter. What do they know? They don't know anything about me. I'm just gonna keep going. And I kept doing that for like 2 months. And then randomly, I went into this random open house in Bel Air. I think it was like a $4.5 million home. And I met this guy. He was the only one that I've ever met that was super encouraging of me going into real estate. And he just flipped it around. He's like, now is the perfect time for you to go into real estate. He said, if you're interested in working with me, I will teach you what I know about the business and we'll split everything 50-50. And no joke, I started there like 2 days later working for him. But now real estate is not something where you go in and you sit down in your office and clients are fed to you. Real estate is one of these businesses where you go into the office and then you sit there and you're like, now what? Because it's all on you. Now at the time, I think I had maybe $5 grand saved up in my checking account. That was all I was worth at the time, was about $5 grand. That was from me working several years over at this marine aquarium wholesaler, me saving up, what I could over summers and spring breaks and working part-time and ditching school and all. That was basically what I had, was about $5 grand. That was enough to pay my way through all the real estate licensing, all the realtor fees and like MLS fees, like any little, signs and business cards and everything like that. That was it to them because they're, some 40-year-old with all these expenses, and for them to be running around for like $500 wasn't worth it. But for me at 18, $500 was a ton of money. So I was just like, I will do whatever it takes. And I noticed a lot of these agents just wouldn't have good photography on their lease listings. So I'd go to other agents in my office and say, listen, I see you had this lease listing. How about this? I will go and take pictures of your listing. I have a great camera. I know how to Photoshop them. I'll make it look amazing, and I'll give you these pictures. In exchange for that, all I ask is that you let me post your lease on Craigslist to get it some more exposure. If you lease it on your own, those pictures are yours. You don't owe me a dime. But if I lease it, I can represent the tenant. And this was a win-win for both people involved, because for me, it got me exposure on Craigslist to get calls from tenants and maybe find them a rental or lease that place. And for them, they got free, great real estate photography of their list. Keep in mind, when you're 18 years old, this to me was more money than I had ever seen in my life, and I was saving all of it. Because I'm just naturally the type where I'm not a spender. I don't like spending a lot of money. I like saving it instead. So basically everything, I just saved it and saved it and saved it, but I had yet to sell a house. And that was one of the big ones for me, was actually selling a house, because so many people were telling me, who's gonna trust you at 18 years old to go and sell a house? Nobody's gonna trust you. That's the biggest investment people are gonna make of their life. Why would they go and trust an 18-year-old? But what happened was, about 10 months in, I was sitting in open house and a couple walks in. Now keep in mind, mind, at this time, I had sat open houses every single Sunday. Since I first started, every single Sunday I'd hold an open house. I didn't get any results from it, but 10 months into it, a random couple walks in and we ended up hitting it off. And they basically gave me the chance to help them find a home. Now, I think I reminded the buyer of himself when he was younger, and I think someone had given him a chance when he was younger, and he was somewhat repaying me with that chance. And I ended up finding him a home about a month later. It was close to $3.6 million in Beverly Hills, and we closed on it. Now, keep in mind, that commission that I made off $3.6 million was more money than I had ever seen in my life. That was basically the equivalent of me winning the lottery. I mean, that's really how I felt. And I remember having that commission and depositing that in the bank account and realizing, like, you know what, I can never go to college after this. Like, why would I go and waste time in school when I just made this huge commission and I'm showing my parents, like, bombs out, like, I just made this commission. This is real. This is an actual career. I can really do this. Let's not go to college. Let me do this another year and continue to recreate this. And when I got that commission, by the way, I did what any, 18, almost 19-year-old would do at the time. And I went and I bought my dream car at the time, which is a 2006 Chrome Orange Lotus Elise. I bought the Lotus Elise, I had some money left over in the bank, and I thought, you know what? I made it. But you realize that you end up really liking it, that it's so much fun to do the deal, that you're meeting some great people. And best of all, it's just like I finally realized that I can actually do it, and that I actually have what it takes to sell a home. And that everyone else that was telling me I was too young, that I didn't have what it takes, that I was too inexperienced, was f***ing wrong. They were all wrong. That I just proved everyone else wrong that told me that I couldn't do it. And that was the best feeling I could have ever had, the best experience I could have ever had, because that gave me the confidence to tell me I can do it again. If I can do it once, I can do it again. And not even like 2 months later, I sold another home for about $1.2 million, also in Beverly Hills. And then a few months later, I sold another home for close to $2 million. And it was just the initial confidence of that first deal that showed me that, you know what, it's actually possible and I can actually do it. Now, I was doing that, and by the third year of me selling real estate, I was hitting over $100,000 per year. And I was saving pretty much all of it. Like, I was living off $5 Subway sandwiches. I was basically, at that time, just hoarding money. I was, besides the car, like the Lotus Elise was the one thing that I had really spent money on. Besides that, I would go out of my way to try to save money. And a lot of that came from, when I was 16 years old, both of my parents filed for bankruptcy around the same time. And I remember having 20 bucks and really making that $20 last. And I remember thinking that was $10 of gas and 2 $5 foot-long sandwiches, and I would make that last. I could make a $5 Subway sandwich last like lunch and dinner. So I had that same thing going on in the back of my head, that even though I'd be making like $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 commissions, that in the back of my mind I'm thinking, that's a lot of Subway sandwiches and that's a lot of gas money. It never occurred to me that $70,000 was $70,000. I didn't view it as that. I thought that was gas money and Subway sandwiches, and that impact stayed with me even now, like even today. I still think of a lot of money that I make in terms of gas money and Subway sandwiches. That never left. I think that made such an impression on me. I just continued saving and saving and saving. Now, in 2011, I noticed real estate prices be really, really, really cheap. And I thought that there's no way that real estate could be this cheap for this long. And I started focusing on an area in San Bernardino that I thought was just massively undervalued. Now, at the time, I had close to $200,000 saved up. Now, keep in mind, this is about 3.5 to 4 years in of real estate. Now, also keep in mind, this is me earning over $100,000 per year, which, keep in mind, after taxes, and California taxes are crazy, by the way. So I had about $200 and something thousand that was saved up by the time I was about 21 years old. And I noticed real estate was so cheap in 2011. And what I did is I figured I should buy some rental property. And the reason why I thought that was because real estate for me, even though I was making decent money at it, it was pretty inconsistent. And I felt very uneasy knowing that I'm only as good as my last deal. And so even though you might make a $50,000 commission, it could be 6 months before you make another one of those. And it was that inconsistency that really made me feel nervous, knowing that I don't know when my next paycheck is going to be, and I don't know how much that paycheck is going to be for. And I figured, you know what, I can buy a property and just rent it out. These are properties, by the way, in San Bernardino that were selling like $250,000, sometimes to $350,000, that were now selling for 60, 70 grand. So I thought there's no possible way it would stay at this price. They have to at least come back up to whatever their replacement value was, which at the time was about $170,000 to $200,000. So I figured at the very least I'm buying it basically a third of what it was worth. So I bought my first house for $60,000, and I bought these, by the way, all cash, because these were all short sales foreclosures, and the banks didn't want to deal with properties that had a loan contingency on them. They wanted cash deals. But I ended up getting 3 properties, and I ended up renting them all out. And that rental income, when I was fully done with that, pretty much paid the base of my living expenses. So I kept my living expenses basically whatever the properties were generating, which I think at the time was about $3,000 per month from these properties. So I kept my expenses based off the $3,000 per month and continued just saving up what I made as a real estate agent. So now it's about 2013, and what I started noticing is that a lot of my lease clients that I had leased to years ago wanted to all of a sudden start buying. So maybe I made a $500 commission in 2009. Well, then they came to me and then bought a $1.5 million house. There's a $30,000 commission right there. I've had many of those. I would say maybe about 1 in 5, maybe 1 in 6 lease clients ended up buying something from me. And that equated to a ton of sales. From 2013 on, my sales volume just skyrocketed because a lot of these people ended up buying homes. And not only that, they ended up referring me other business. And the business just continued to get better and better and better. And every year since starting, I've done better than the year prior. Now, at the time, I learned in about 2013 what a Roth IRA was and what a 401k was. Now, I had all this extra money coming in, and I figured, you know what? I'm just gonna max out everything I can. So, you got the 401k and the Roth IRA, so I'd start putting money in that in an S&P 500 index fund, which, as we know in 2013, again, that was something that just went up considerably since then. And the values of my properties, by the way, really started going up as well. So then I just continued saving and saving and saving and saving, and my business just continued to get better and better and better. And a lot of that at the time was really just from repeat clients and referral business that just kept snowballing and building and building and building and building. Then in early 2016, I saw massive potential in areas close by Marina del Rey and Venice here in California. Now again, I had been saving up pretty much all of my money over a few years of earning, I won't say exactly how much, it's in the 6 figures, saving up this money. And I saw massive potential in these areas around Venice and Marina del Rey that were seeing a lot of this tech boom. And I saw a lot of the money moving further east. So I ended up buying a house there and renovating it. Now that house I bought for, close to $800,000. It's now worth about 1.2. And then I continued saving, and the business continued to get better and better and better in terms of real estate. Then I bought a duplex this year that I then renovated. I'm in it about $650,000, and the value of it is now worth about $850,000. So that's another $200,000 in equity that I made on this. So from doing all of this, now keep in mind this is 9 years in, and I won't say my exact net worth, but I will say that by the age of 26, I was worth over $1 million. That's exactly how I did it from start to finish. And then as far as the future and what else I want to do from here, I can never see myself giving up real estate sales. Like, I love being a real estate agent. For me, that is one of the funnest jobs in the world. I absolutely love it. Like, I would just be bored if I wasn't doing real estate sales. In the future, I eventually might want to transition a little bit more towards the investment side. It's just very expensive. So like, I have to continue to make money to, funnel that into buying more property, so that won't go anywhere. But as of now, like, I can't give up being a real estate agent, just because that to me that's everything to me. And I absolutely love it. And thankfully it all worked out in the end. And sometimes what you think is going to be a negative in your life actually turns out to be a positive in every step of the way. Until you take a step back, you can't really see the impact one little thing has on you. So also, if you're going through any tough times and you think your life is in the or whatever. Sometimes all it takes is for you to take a step back and realize that those things all happen for a reason and will help shape you into the person who, you know, you're eventually going to become, which is going to be a better person and happier and all this sort of other stuff. So anyway, that's exactly how I did it. Hopefully I didn't leave anything out, but if you have any questions, any Graham, you didn't mention this, just comment down below. I'm happy to answer anything. If you guys enjoy this video, by the way, please click the like button. It really helps out the channel. It helps out boost engagement and stuff like that. Something as simple as clicking the like button really does make a huge difference. It lets me know that you guys like this sort of content. It helps out with engagement. It helps in every aspect. So it's something as simple as that. Like if you wouldn't mind smashing the like button, if you guys enjoyed this, that would mean a lot. If you made it all the way through and you want to comment down below, I spend hours responding to all the comments that have made it all the way through, just because that means a lot to me that you guys watch all the way through and you guys enjoy this. And the people that watch it all the way through, I believe, are like the true MVPs of the channel, and definitely deserve some support on that as well. Well, anyway, thank you again for watching. Many more videos to come, and until next time.